Okay, we are going to pick apart Bill Maher's perspective on the circumcision debate.
Just going to bring this up one more time,
What?
and then I'm going to leave it alone.
What?
Circumcision. If you haven't had it done, I'm just saying
It's great.
it.
I'm just saying it's great. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that was a little too much of a reaction from Bill for this guy here. He's reaching out to have him calm down. He's getting a little uncomfortable. Bill Maher, he is sort of in this laughing, joking state right now. He's incapable of having a rational, logical conversation. It happens to a lot of men when either they bring up circumcision or circumcision is brought up to them. You can see in the way that he has that sort of laughing face. Not that much noise is coming out. It's a very common response that a lot of men have to circumcision.
Calm down.
That is the essence of my message, but I can get deeper than that.
Okay.
Why is it great? Prevents disease.
Yeah.
Isn't that originally why they snipped foreskins?
Yeah.
All right. So he uses the word snipped, which is it's a very good window into how language derives perspective. In biblical times, perhaps circumcision was a snip. It was originally just a small nick on the very tip to let a few drops of blood out. It later evolved into the complete amputation of what hangs past the glands, and I'm not sure if it was 500 AD or sometime around then when the circumcision style that we see today started to become popular as a way of completely amputating the foreskin. But in biblical times, it had nothing to do with preventing disease. It was a method of control for male sexuality. That was the purpose of circumcision in biblical times.
And it feels good.
That's such a fucked up thing to say about circumcision. To just say that it feels good like that. I can tell that this guy talking with Bill Maher doesn't really want to talk about circumcision. He's very uncomfortable about the topic. So he's making jokes like that. Like I said, a lot of men enter this sort of mentality where they just want to make a lot of jokes and mockery when circumcision comes up.
Not when you're getting it done.
No. And
No.
Even Bill Maher right now has to concede that circumcision is a very painful procedure. There's actually a lot of new studies coming out now that show that infants do feel pain. It's actually very odd that there was a very long period of time when doctors would say that infants do not feel pain. But yeah, surgery on the genitals, it's a very painful procedure. Infants cannot have the same type of anesthesia that adults can have when they have surgery.
I still remember it though, and I was 12 months old, 12 weeks.
You don't remember it. Were you circumcised?
No, of course I don't remember it.
But were you circumcised?
That seems like a bit of an agitated response, a bit of an unnecessary amount of agitation when he answered that he was talking about making a joke about remembering it at a few months old. Yeah, we know as humans that trauma is a very tricky thing that is stored in the body in very complex ways. But circumcision, we turn a blind eye to that in males. circumcision of females, it is acknowledged in the West as being a long-term psychological harm. But circumcision of infant males is not acknowledged as having long-term psychological harm, even though the evidence and even the studies now are revealing this to be true.
Some people are not. Many people are not.
Okay, I'll show you. But of course I was.
Well, don't say of course. You know, there are many people who I did a bit in my act about circumcision, and I've had
I
people.
remember that.
Really?
No, I don't.
And people, I have had people yell out.
Why would he even say that? He's just making jokes to make jokes now. The guest. Then I remember that. No, of course not. No, I don't. He's just kind of making a joke at whatever is in front of him at this point because he really wants to get off of this topic. It makes him very uncomfortable.
Out. It's not funny. Like, of all the subjects I talk about, that's the one that they literally yell at. It's not funny. It's bodily mutilation, and people have died.
Yeah, all true. Over 100 infants in the United States alone die from infant circumcision. It's not necessarily always on paper. They sometimes write SIDS after the doctor made an infant bleed out of his penis. So it's a very tricky. It's a very tricky number to know just how many infants are dying every year. Globally, for sure, we don't really have any way of knowing how many infants are dying. But in the United States, it is definitely around 100, maybe a little bit more than that, every year.
Really?
Yes, people take. Some people.
What people have died? What are we talking about?
And you know what? Even if they
they're
did,
38 and they get circumcised?
well,
What?
well, obviously, something could get infected no matter when you do it, at whatever age. So I'm sure there's a certain casualty count.
It's actually very common. A lot of infants do get infected because circumcision does put an open wound into a diaper that's going to be filled with piss and shit. And babies have actually gotten oral herpes from being circumcised. That is something that you can look up for yourself. But I believe quite a handful at least, of infants that have gotten oral herpes from their circumcision ceremony have died from the infection. That's not to include infants that die simply from bleeding out from being circumcised. An infant does not have that much blood in their body, and it is pretty common that infants can bleed an ounce or more than that even of blood when they are circumcised.
I don't care.
That makes two of us.
See, there it is. That is the mentality of male circumcision. Overall, globally, it is a blind eye. People just do not care about genital mutilation of the male gender. It's not that male and female genital mutilation are different types of procedures that do different types of damage. It is simply a different perspective on the genders. And this perspective starts at birth. Circumcision is the clear evidence of that.
Let's move on. Okay, no, go ahead.
No, I'm a one-ish.
Yeah, let's move on. This guy really wants to get off of this topic. And even slipped in one more joke there. You caught it.
You can't do it, and that is pro-circumcision.
It's very good.
Because it's a gross-looking thing, and it is disgusting, and it's a. Why do you think they made it that law in the Bible? Because they obviously saw from.
This is where just blatant institutionalized, normalized body shaming of men comes in. That's just the way men are born. And you can go have a large audience and just call it gross and disgusting, shaming men, and it is played off pretty easily as a joke nationwide.
Experience that uncircumcised men, bad things happened to them, or God smote them or something, and so they were like, let's make this a fucking law that you gotta cut off the end of your dick.
Cut off the end of your dick.
He can't even get through this sentence without bursting out laughing, and he's talking about cutting off the end of a baby's dick. He's literally describing it while laughing.
Now it's gone too far, Bill. Bill Maher, everybody.